The last few days, we have been working on the practice of bare attention, really inviting a concentrated, absorbed, wholly present mind available to the object frequently the breath. We have someone coming in. It'll be lovely. We'll look forward to seeing Lynn. And so we talked about in this practice, remember our theme was why we meditate. Why do we meditate? I have not used much of the book except for little portions that we're going to play with today. But the truth is, the experience is, the Dharma is that concentration is an essential component of our mindfulness practice, an essential component of our mindfulness practice. Can anybody guess why? Concentrated attention, essential. Thank you, Herman, to our mindfulness practice. Anybody have any thoughts about why? We've got the butt of a cat beautifully right in our screen. Why would concentrated, absorbed attention be essential to keep the mind from wandering? Yes. Why would that be important to our mindfulness practice? So you can actually show up and be here for what's happening. So the neuroscience is that a Labrador can be mindful towards the ball. So you throw the ball and the Labrador goes, ball. Well, I don't think it says ball. Yay. And then next moment, squirrel. Next moment, food. Next, and of course, I'm making up the language so you get the idea. The Labrador is just in, right, each moment mindful, knowing ball, knowing hunger, knowing, but there is no continuity. There is no bridge. And by lack of that now, and now, and now, the truth of life in its essential cannot be seen. What is it then, do you imagine, we clearly see when we can be present here and then here and then here?
Impulse towards the ball.
The impulse, yes, the volition or the seeking or the wanting of something. Pete said, as the Labrador might be ball, you can see the and then feel and know that impulse, volition, clinging or grasping quality, you're onto it already. The wisdom factor is not available in just mind moment. It is really available this moment as I then see and know this moment and see the what true nature, we could say, the Dharma of all things, right? Here and then still here and then still here and then still here, being what? What have we, I've recited it at least 3 times for you all. What are the 3 characteristics that we're being concentrated and mindful? We will very easily and quickly gain insight. This is the idea of insight, and then wisdom. What do you see by this moment and this moment and this moment? Any ideas? They're called the 3 marks of existence. What are they? Everything impermanent. What else? Everything impersonal. Everything imperfect, not really. We really mean unreliable, dissatisfying, unsatisfactory. Can't count on it to be here, even if it was here, which is the beginning of what we call insight. Why would that insight then, I'm going to give you the whole Buddhist teachings in like 5 minutes. Why would those 3 characteristics, the ability to see it again and again and again, cultivating insight, leading to wisdom, and the wisdom would be, any thoughts? That would be the end of suffering. That wisdom would then lead directly, truly, to the end of suffering. What is that wisdom? What do you know when you see everything arising and passing, appearing and disappearing, presenting and fading? What do you recognize for yourself? That nothing is permanent. What?
Groundless.
It's all groundless. There is no point to clinging. There is no point to craving. There is no point to resisting. There is no point to rejecting, right? Most of what we're doing with mind, wanting this, not wanting that, forgetting about it all together, right? That there is no benefit. There is only suffering there. And then in concentrated practice, we're going to do some concentration games. I thought that would be one way to make access. We can see the resulting from concentration, peace, ease, calm. We could then go on, I suppose, to say non-craving, non-reactivity, no suffering. Does that make sense to anybody? This is the point. This is the point. And so concentration, though we don't focus on that as tightly as the Vipassana school does, the Zen school that I was a very important part of for me to begin my training was very invested in concentration practice. And so I thought we would investigate today to see if we could see the difference between a mind that is mindful, attentive, but moving, oh, bird singing, tree moving, cold skin, right, versus one that is slightly more stable, steadfast. Purified is one of the words. Means it doesn't have all the strings and paths and allowing us to see, feel, and then know directly the path to peace. Don't you love that? The path to peace. It's so wonderful. May it be so. And it is so. So let's practice with it. We're going to have a little fun now. So this is not going to be maybe like our standard practice. We're going to be, I'm going to be adding things and you're just going to be taking a personal note because we're going to be talking about it later. And so then establishing yourself for the practice, just checking into the body, seeing how you are. That would include a very gentle, friendly body sweep. Anchoring your feet will be a support And then just seeing if you can get a sense of the whole body sitting here. This is the beginning concentration object. Just the felt sense of the body sitting here. Feeling the feet, the bend of the knee, the weight of the body in the seat, the contact with the chair, the uprightness of the spine if you're sitting, the rise of the head, the balance of the head. And then that softened front of the body, just checking into the face, the throat, the shoulders, the chest, the diaphragm, the belly, the lower abdomen. Breathing the whole body. Now, you may notice that you are already, even with mind movement between objects of body, that the continuity of the body itself, the body and body sensations can invite a gathering of attention, the placement of mind, and then to do so with gentleness, or friendliness. And just resting in this body, and as we are still beginning to notice that we're breathing, and then we're going to sharpen our attention just a little bit beyond the whole body breathing, which is an absolutely perfect practice. You could stay in the whole body breathing to see if you can't come to find the breath within the breathscape. And seeing if you can simply place the mind in that breath, anywhere there in the whole or a part of the breathscape. Might be the whole chest, diaphragm, belly area. It might be just a part. We're slightly more concentrating the attention now. A little bit less movement of mind from the sweep of the body to the awareness of the breathscape. And then to finding for a moment, just a place within the breathscape called the Anapanya, the breath spot. We're not going to hang out there for too long. I just want you to get the felt sense. And today, what is most vivid for me is something in the area just beneath the diaphragm. There is no right spot, but you're going to see if you can pick just one. One pointed, single pointed, focused attention in the area of the breath and the body. And for right now, we're just going to focus on the out breath as this anapanya, as this body is in release. And make a full commitment to this object called the out breath. With each out breath, seeing if you can't commit, stay engaged and intentioned from the beginning of the out breath through the wave and release of the out breath to its end. And then gently note its end, recognizing the stillness, the pause. And just self-reporting, I'm noticing footsteps and the sound of the gurgling pond near us. I can hear a mourning dove, little birds chirping, some movement. And so even though I have committed myself to this out breath, other objects are very available. This is not good or bad, just noticing. See what you notice for yourself. Being watchful of any tendency towards striving, gluing the mind to the out breath. This will not be effective. But can we make a joyful commitment? Bringing curiosity, interest, and our finest attention. Mind becoming more concentrated in the object of the out breath each breath. Refining the attention a little bit more, making sure that we capture the beginning of the in breath, the sensations of the wave of breath, and the end of the out breath. And we're going to begin to support that attention with a counting practice, very common in the Zen tradition. At the beginning of the in breath, we're going to count 1, end of the out breath, 1, beginning of the next in breath, 2, followed by the out breath to its end, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. And then when you notice that the mind has moved off of the breath or off of the counting, we smile at the insight. We smile at the recognition, and we begin again at 1. So whoever thought, well, this is interesting, I think I could do this. Start again at 1. This is not a punishment. This does not imply failure, but actually the growing insight, knowing the mind on the breath, knowing the mind on not breath, both essential to our concentration practice. Being watchful of the habit to hold the breath. This is not necessary. Some people do hold the note 1, 1 for the whole of the in breath and the whole of the out breath. This is seen as supportive early on and will become cumbersome later, and you can then let it go. Placing the whole mind and one's intention and attention in the direct experience of the breath, breath by breath, one breath at a time. If you get to 10, you're just going to begin again at 1. Be watchful of self-congratulations. It is actually very likely that you have had 100 thoughts between 1 and 10 and have not yet been able to have a fine enough attention to yet catch them. And that's not a problem. We are exactly where we are. But we're going to add now another device to see if we can't occupy and collect more of the mind. So if you would put your hands together, hand in hand, with the index finger available for a little movement here, and then placing those hands folded in one's lap. And now with the beginning of the in-breath, we're going to press in ever so slightly at the beginning of the in-breath, just signaling awareness of breathing in with the press in and releasing that gentle press on the out-breath. 1. Pressing in 2. Releasing to its end 2. Pressing in 3. Release to the end 3. Let's do this for several breaths. It can be a very subtle movement, but you're going to continue the counting. Letting go at the beginning of the out breath, releasing that gentle pressure, but waiting till the end of the out breath to offer the counting note. Being watchful of the habits to manage or control the breath. This is not the practice. Breathing naturally, effortlessly, joyfully. Being watchful of the idea of getting it right. This will cause a certain suffering. Just begin again. Softening the belly, releasing the shoulders, letting go of any striving, but staying in contact with the breath. For the whole of the breath. And at some point, as the mind becomes more stable, more steady, more concentrated, and purified, the counting will become unnecessary and it will feel like a over effort. And so we're going to let go of the breathing whenever that happens, and you'll know when it is. You'll feel some resistance or extra efforting that's not needed to engage the breath. And then we're simply going to press in with the in breath, at some point noting in, releasing at the beginning of the out breath, noting out. We're not rejecting objects. We're not pushing away sounds, sensations, or thoughts. We're simply attending to the breath with the whole heart mind, letting whatever is arising and passing in the background simply be. Developing a finer attention in the direct experience of the breath so that we can now devote ourselves wholly to the breath itself, letting go of the labeling or noting in, out. We're just going to continue with that gentle press for another few moments, but really seeing if you can't experience the whole of the in breath, the whole of the out breath. and rest in the pause. For some people, they find that the actual filling of the in breath, following the filling from the base of the body all the way up, and then the release from the top all the way down, can be a support. Other people find that resting the attention in that breath spot or anapanya invites more stability. Just see what's true for you. And then we can let that finger get more and more subtle. Training the attention more and more to the direct experience of the breath. We only want as much effort as is required for placing the attention again and again. The body is soft, the mind is directed, attentive, and present. The heart is friendly, open, non-judging, non-striving. We've let go of counting. We've now going to release the noting if you haven't already. And then we're going to let go of that gentle movement, letting the energy, the vitality of the concentrated mind do itself. There may be a brightness, an energy, a sense of direct connectedness, vitality, the purifying of the mind, less wandering, less narrating, staying right here in the experience of the breath. And now we're going to make the breath a little larger. If you were resting in that Anapana with a tight focus on the in and out breath as it relates to just the area of the breath. The sky, like for some people, they like to begin and end in the felt sense of the body.
but just then expanding the felt sense of the breath beyond the body into open space, and then from open space back into the body. And know that you can return to the body, to the breath state, to the breath anapanya as needed to stabilize mind. You can return to counting. You can return to labeling or noting, or just the press of the in and then the out with the finger. See what's needed. And then just feeling the effects. See what you notice as we have cultivated this concentration and mindfulness together. Feeling that sense of wholeness, ease, maybe a greater embodied sense, connection, and maybe even an expansiveness, a connection to not only this body, this breath, but that wide open space in which all things, just like the breath, are coming and going. Feeling that friendliness, that open-heartedness, that joy, that virya, that energy available. Seeing what else is available. And then gathering the merits and the gratitude for this practice. As we proclaim, may this practice be of benefit to all beings everywhere, without exception, omitting none. Awakening us and freeing us all. Let's do it.
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna try to turn this back on
and,
and it's just your name changed back to mine.
okay. I know that we cut out for a little bit of that, so apologies to those who didn't hear all of the instructions, but hopefully enough. Let's see if I can- Pete just
Said you just have to be here in person. Carrie, can you turn you off?
No, I'm off.
Mhm. Let me see.
I know.
Hang on.
folks. I'm
Gonna
gonna
work.
work this out.
So there is,
There's a button up on
It's done.
your,
It's done.
okay. Let's see how. Okay, I can turn me off and then maybe just use you. I'm afraid to unmute me.
I'm gonna try it again.
Go ahead.
Can anybody hear me now? Okay, Armand, thank you. Okay, for whatever part of that practice you might have captured, I can't say. For those who are here, maybe a little more. What's your experience then? What do you see as the training to the benefit of cultivating concentration? How could this be useful? What's your sense of that?
Didn't recognize it until the bell rang, but I had no thoughts in time. It was very fast, and my mind didn't wander. I had thoughts, but it never left
Yes.
the perimeter.
Yes, it didn't get caught by the thoughts. It isn't that thoughts aren't happening. They're just not, there is a natural protection, it's called, from all other objects. It doesn't mean they're not there, and it doesn't mean that there isn't some awareness of they're there, but there is no clinging, grasping, rejecting, aversion active. This is the path to the end of suffering.
Your thoughts didn't have any momentum. I guess.
No momentum.
They didn't go in any
Pete
direction.
is saying they didn't also know papancha, and then this thought, and then that thought, and then this thought, and then it's sort of that frothing, craving quality as it relates to thoughts, less likely to occur with some concentration. Anybody else notice this? Anybody else out there notice this? Can you feel that not quite as gripped, hooked in the thought, not quite the same identification with thoughts, like they're there, but they're not me. I don't need to do anything with them. They're really not a problem, right? It's not that they're not occurring, but they're not problematic in any way. And they don't have the same hook.
It occurred less frequently.
And they occurred less frequently, Pete is saying. Anybody else notice this? Lynn is saying, yes, she noticed that. Denise is nodding, noticed it as well. Yes. So that's a fairly consistent,
Mm-hmm.
and what did you notice as we began to lighten or loosen the structure? Not quite as much noting, not counting, let go of some of the labeling that we began with. We even let go of the just very gentle movement with the index finger. You could even almost, I could feel the gentle press of the finger, but not really have to do almost anything. The in-breath itself kind of moving it, really not so volitional anymore, just it's just this happening. And then all the way out into open space. And then what did you notice about that?
Opening and expanding.
And opening and expanding without, again, difficulty or distress, not caught again by the objects. The babbling brook here is still here, but not now distraction worthy, not now being taken from embodied presence, awareness to the sound happening, birds chirping, right? But really this greater capacity to invite awareness into the larger scape, we could call it, without distraction, then also without distress. These are the two invitations. Not just without distraction, because what would be the point of a non-distracted mind if it didn't equal ease, joy, calm, happiness? Forget about it. Why bother, right? To end up with, well, I've got focused attention, that counts for something. It's really not the point. In current day mindfulness, we tend to use it a little bit for better test scores, better sniper shooting, right? Better, but really that's not its promise. It doesn't mean it wouldn't happen. It does happen, but that's really not its point. The neurology is only important to the extent that it then leads to the end of suffering. We knew this for sure. We got a lot of evidence, and I've said this many times, when George was working with the Chicago Bulls, right? And he was amazing at it, and they followed this guy. They loved him. And what did they notice? Better shooters, not less addicted, didn't have better relationships with their wives. In fact, I think all of them got divorced. The gambling habits didn't improve. The drug habits didn't improve, right? They weren't happier as we did the self-reporting, even when they were winning. This is interesting to me. Isn't this interesting? They were winning. In fact, they won a lot of times. I think it was 6, some huge number. It was gigantic, right? Championship and championship and championship. Addictions are greater. Fighting with the wife is greater. Winning, and then they win again. No improvement in personal satisfaction. How interesting is this? Yes.
I've heard you share similar examples before, and I still don't understand quite how it could be.
How could it be? Because their concentration
Shooting.
as it related to the basketball, not to
Well-
life, got really good.
But they also didn't do it in the framework of the Dharma
They did not.
guidance.
Just
There was
what's a
no
better
ethic.
game?
There were no precepts. It was strictly about the result. And the result was, how many more three-pointers can we hit? Many was the answer. Many. Did it contribute to the end of suffering? Not an ounce. In fact, we know for sure it grew it, because greater addiction, greater conflict, more divorce, more. So it gives me goosebumps. It gives me goosebumps. Why? Because without that open-heartedness, without the commitment to the end of suffering, not only for oneself, but for others, I don't care how good your focused attention is. And it will improve. The test scores will go up. We know for sure. you will get a better grade. And it will not lead to the end of suffering, because that was never the result, and it was never the point, ever.
We're still striving.
It's still striving. It's still result oriented. And we know that concentration alone is not sufficient. The Buddha himself said this alone, the jhanas, with the deepest levels of concentration and the positive effects. You were levitating, you were primarily joyful. There was dramatic sukha in the jhana states, right? In the high level jhana states, the body dissolved, the breath dissolved. You were just resting in bliss states. Did it contribute to the end of suffering? No, not really. Briefly, like a good drug, like a nice solid heroin, but did not lead to insight. It did not lead to insight. It did not lead to understanding that grasping and rejecting and will contribute to our suffering. It did not. And so it was abandoned. It was abandoned. Though the Buddha himself said, hey, not a bad start. We want to give a little honey with the blade. In fact, it was called the honey tipped blade, the jhanas. Honey tipped, like pretty nice. Still not the end of suffering. Did not lead to the end of suffering. And so what's required within the context of the aspirations and intentions and ethic to contribute to reduce suffering for oneself, right? And then ultimately from that place for all beings.
Even in a performance setting, I've never gotten these teachings without it.
That's right.
There's just a sense that I have to-
Mhm. It is not built in. And be careful if you think so, particularly in a healthcare setting. Because well, I don't know if Jim's still here, but he could certainly speak to this. No harm is a direct and immediate first commitment. And that also means I will do everything forever to keep you alive, no matter what, leading to terrific suffering, because we cannot tolerate the truth of impermanence. We cannot tolerate it. Carrie knows about this. Renee knows about this, and Jim knows about this better than a lot of people. Because why? The impermanence has to be included as a part of the reality of our life. This is one of the essential tenets, right? Why grab? Why cling? Why reject? What is here, what is not here, right, cannot be kept. And then we begin to look at those habits of mind. That's all. Right? Simply habits, not who we really are.
Remind me what the jhanas are.
The jhanas are sometimes considered 8
Okay, that's what I.
layers of concentration and absorption that equal more and more layers of begins with ease, energy, piti, certain kind of essential joy, and then beyond joy to rapture, beyond rapture to bliss, beyond bliss to all consuming, profound, but cannot be held, cannot be kept. And then, of course, it has an addictive device built in, which is, and we've noticed this even in some of our Sangha members who were very strong in concentration practice, the seeking for it, I want to get back to it, is the number one.
I want to get higher state of
Yeah.
jhana.
Yeah, number one problem. And when we worked with Lee Brassington, who's a specialist in this, he said, it's my number one problem. is I can get people into the jhanas and then up into the upper levels. I can't get them to be in life. They just want to be in the bliss states or the rapture states.
Mm.
Now an addictive device. The very thing we're practicing, really, remember what we said, that really the truth of renunciation or restraint is non-addiction. But now we just have people hooked on particular states. Not very helpful. And then I don't care what the state, it doesn't stay either. Right, by the nature of a state, it is not permanent. And so, whoops. Mhm. So, was this helpful today? I thought we would play a little bit.
That's very helpful.
Um,
I found that the concentrating effortful. I could feel it was hard for me to let go of, like, I was breathing more faster.
yes,
Part of it, I think it was a good setup. And I
Mhm.
don't know if I would have been able to access that concentration had we not done that.
yes,
But but there was not liking. There was a kind of a
Yes.
relief in the releasing.
in the release. Yeah. And so Pete said, there is an efforting, there is a discipline, it is true. You are asked to commit oneself. We are not just lingering in the breath. We are really placing with intention, on purpose, in the present moment. This is the definition of mindfulness, right? For a time, and then when you're not following my instructions, because that's not the idea, eventually you go, I don't need this anymore. And then that falls away. And then I don't need this anymore. And that falls away, and let it fall.
I started dropping them about a minute before, 30 seconds before you said each
Yes.
one.
I have a feeling you were cueing me, actually. I can get a sense of that. Actually, this is that one of the superpowers, they call it, of our training, is that you can read the mind. I don't want to say others' mind, but you can read the mind. And so I could feel this is now feeling efforting.
The other day when we were trying to do the breathing in a cycle,
Yes, circular breathing.
I felt like this was similar,
Yes,
but using now feeling prompts
yes,
and counting in my head prompts.
yes.
So it was similar, getting us to the same place, but for me, it was way more effective.
Yes.
And you
I
did that.
can
guidance.
use this a little more effectively, and we invited several supports. So just for a minute of neuroscience, where the whole mind is occupied, concentration will abide. Where the whole mind is occupied, concentration will abide. And so then we used what? Not only the felt sense, the viscera, and that knowing, we used the languaging, didn't we? Counting and then noting. We used choreography of mind that creates a momentum. 1, 2, we choreographed, right? Which allows for certain kind of regulation, occupying an executive function, right? There's some neocortical requirements for sequencing, organizing, and following, right? Use that whole front center of the mind. And then the felt sense and movement, a whole other center of the mind is a movement center. So we're occupying whole mind here. Don't you love that science?
That makes sense.
Isn't that fabulous? Whole mind is required for concentration. Whole mind. Now, normally, if you don't have some of these supports, you're just going to struggle a little bit, aren't you? You're just breathing, knowing you're breathing. You certainly got that visceral opportunity, but then you're going, how long do we got to do this?
I had a suspicion, though, that if I would have gone back to it, there was a way to do it with less effort, but I'm not sure. I didn't go back to it.
Any of the supports?
Yeah, going back to counting. I
Yes.
almost was going to be like, okay, I'm going to drop counting for a bit,
Yeah,
find the natural rhythm, and then maybe I'll bring the counting back.
yeah.
I-
You wouldn't
I
need it.
didn't,
You
but-
wouldn't.
But
Most people wouldn't,
yeah,
unless a strong distraction element. So let's say the computer blew up. Or in Denise's case yesterday, some animal attacked her. We don't know what it was. We think it was a bobcat. I'm not sure.
probably a
Shut
frog.
I think we think it was a frog.
Mountain lion.
Bobcat, bobcat.
In our evening sitting, something came up and got her. We don't know what it was. It
was
jumped
dark.
on her.
It's dark. The screen.
It was in the dark. We don't know. And so, right, disrupted concentration, right? Or a painful memory or a trauma activated in the body. Because we know that trauma can be from bottom up, right? So the body in some way gets active. And I have had this happen many times, by the way, in concentration practice, where people are really just abiding, and now there is space. No more running, no more, right? And what comes up? That. And not always known, by the way, and in no way mean to imply the memory of, but the body's viscera activates in some way. And we want to both allow that with some kind of container and space. If we don't have it, right, then we have to really work more, right, to regain and collect. It all useful and valuable in the practice. I'm going to read here and see if I'm in the sun. So
Say goodbye. We gotta go. We have to walk over to our sitting spot.
I'm going to have to move because I'm dead.
No, because we have to go start 9 o'clock sitting.
Yep.
That's
We have
more.
a 9 o'clock sitting, so I'm going to read this. I was more friendly toward my thoughts. Lovely. That's a beautiful invitation. It never let me truly connect to a thought or sound in any depth. That's right. It really brought ease and relaxation. Very wonderful. Not being there and my losing everyone for a while, I was drifting and resting, missing being there. You are always welcome back because here we are today till 4 o'clock. We are going to get ready now to transition over to our California Oak Circle, where we will begin our 9 o'clock sitting. For this group, they might need a little movement for a minute. So I'm going to sign off now. Let's just take one more moment. And let's see, just for fun, if we can't come back. And to what extent that's available or not. May each breath and all of our efforts contribute to the end of suffering and the realization of true abiding, unconditioned happiness and freedom. And may this practice contribute that it be so this very day. So be it. Thank you all. Irman, lovely to see you today. Denise, you as well. Jeanette, all of our friends who have joined us here. Leslie, good to see you. We will include you today, by the way, in Israel in our final sitting, sending blessings and merits to all those currently in fear and in lack of safety there.
Thank you very
May
much,
we all be
Diana.
well. Thank you all so much. We will see you again on Tuesday at 7 a.m. I'll look forward to seeing you then. Be well, everyone.
In Israel.
He went back.
We need to go over